very pleased to have Kirinpal here to make some music for us, and Pastor Roy and Michael will introduce a little later on who are going to share their experiences. I think if anybody doesn't know, this is part of our Lent series at Union Chapel, where we've been following the theme of faith under fire, and in our Sunday services and in our study sessions we've been looking at we're piling in. I told you they're piling. Excellent. Do come in, you're very welcome. We've been thinking about what are the challenges facing believers in this contemporary world that we live in, this difficult, dangerous world. And we've heard from various people in these Wednesday sessions. We began listening to Julia Bicknell, who is a journalist who specialises in following cases of religious persecution. She very interestingly gave us a talk about the situation facing many people in the world, talking about not just about extreme cases of religious persecution, but also about the marginalisation of people of faith. And then, what do we have next? We have a lovely evening. Somebody remind me what came second? We had, last week we had, remember last week, and then last week we had two really interesting speakers. One was a person, Nazik Ramadan, who runs an organisation called Migrant Voice, which is an organisation of migrants speaking for themselves, and Shannon Shah, who's the Director of Faith for the Climate. And he is a Muslim and spoke very powerfully of how his faith informed his action. And the week before we had three wonderful speakers, all of Christian background. One, Bethan, who works with refugees and asylum seekers. Vanessa Elston, who takes her prayer and spiritual life out onto the streets in climate protests. And then Augustine Tanaim, who is Afro-Caribbean. He is LGBT, he's a gay Afro-Caribbean priest who speaks out against gay conversion therapy, which he had experienced, and against racism in the church. So we've had some very powerful speakers who live on the outside of the mainstream, but are really very powerful in the work that they do. And we continue that tonight with two other speakers who will introduce it shortly. But while we're setting ourselves, and while we're anticipating at least 30 other people, we will listen to some music from Kirinpal. And thank you very much for joining us. He came in from India today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really grateful. Those who that is the beautiful valleys of Kashmir. This word is called Santur. It has 100 strings. Traditionally in the Indian language, it is called Shatatantri Veena in the Sanskrit language. This 100-string instrument, it has the mallets. The strings operate and to be played, they have to be tuned. In fact, the piano is the descendant of this verse. I like to play something from my album, Hence, in almost full circle, the track is called Afternoon Jalsa. It's a beautiful raga called Kirinpal Singh.
So let's welcome Pastor Roy, who comes to us from Hong Kong, and I think he comes with a story to tell about the situation in Hong Kong and the work that he's been doing there, and I guess something about the situation of people from Hong Kong in the UK at the moment. That's how, as a person of faith, you have been responding to really challenging situation as it was in Hong Kong, and I guess any country that's under the influence of China at the moment. So there's a microphone there. Thank you.
Hello. I'm sorry, my English is not good. I need to read the script because I'm just afraid that overall all of us don't understand what I'm talking. Sorry, but my name is Roy, Pastor Roy. My Chinese name is Hing Chen. Chen is my surname. I'm the former pastor in Hong Kong, the church named Good Neighbor North District Church in Hong Kong. But today I will share the story, what happened, and also the current situation about the religious freedom in Hong Kong and the social situation nowadays in Hong Kong. My story is starting, I don't know, is starting on December of 6th, 2020. My church, Good Neighbor North District Church, a charity account and the personal accounts of me and HSBC were frozen. The next day, the Hong Kong police prosecuted us for money laundering and fraud. They arrested the church's accounting staff and resigned the director and issued a general order to me. Nowadays, we feel very disappointed about the HSBC, the largest bank in Hong Kong, maybe also in the UK. They brought us preliminary finance resources because of the police allegations. And my church in Hong Kong has always been practicing the mission of the gospel. During the social movement from June 2019 in Hong Kong, we were committed in helping young people in need, such as setting up Protect the Children, a volunteer team to provide humanitarian support at the demonstration site, doing some support of employment, food, and psychological support counseling to the people who need, especially in the social movement. Based on the Bible's teaching, we need to love and have a mercy. We support human rights, justice and freedom in Hong Kong. But it is very pity that the Hong Kong government, they just acted similarly to the Chinese Communist Party, using economic crimes to suppress the decents. Today, our bank accounts are still frozen by HSBC, which is still working with the regime. The Hong Kong government still wants me for the crime of money. They are still laundering and suppressing our work in the religion in Hong Kong. And regarding the current religious and situation in Hong Kong, the implementation of the National Security Law by the Hong Kong government on July 1st, 2020 has worsened the state of freedom and human rights in Hong Kong. Regarding religious freedom, the National Security Law has become a red line for the religious community. Church cannot freely share information during gatherings, especially concerning political views that differ from the government's. Quite several pastors who support human rights and freedoms are moving to the UK from Hong Kong due to the National Security Law. Intimidation that they faced different political concern. I may give you some example. One of a pastor named Wing Xin he is a former pastor of the church named Remembrance of Grace Church in Hong Kong. He moved to the UK with his family because of threats by the police due to his speeches and the political situation in Hong Kong with the faith. And also, another network named Hong Kong Pastor Network was disbanded in September 2022 because of the leading multiple times of prayers and assemblies in 2019 and publishing the Hong Kong 2020 Gospel Declaration. They attacked by the media, which is love Beijing. Not only our church demanded by the government, but another church named Ecclesia Hong Kong, which has been actively fighting for human rights and freedom, was also disbanded in June 2022. It is hence the second separated church under the effects of national security law. After this law happened, not only the religious freedom being affected, but also overall livelihood, freedom of speech and press, and judicial fairness have all deteriorated severely. For example, suppose Hong Kong citizens express disagreement with the government on social media platforms like Facebook or maybe Instagram. In that case, they may be charged with the offense of subversion of state power under the national security law and be arrested at the next day. Over the past 2 years, several prominent new medias have shut down. Media named the Apple Daily and Stand News have been charged with offense under the national security law, and the responsible person, Jimmy Lai and Chong Pui Kun, have been remanded for trial. Unfortunately, when Hong Kong people read about these court news daily, the police reasons for prosecution are often based on selective and out of context evidence, using words to convince. Hong Kong now has a report hotline and more than 40,000 messages have been reported in the last year, causing everyone fear and anxiety in the society, reporting somebody they are anti-government. And on the latest International Women's Day, a women's group in Hong Kong cancelled a march for women's labor rights, as some participants were warned privately by the policeman that they might violate the national security law. In addition, if participants wished to wear the mask to protect their identities, they were also at risk of being arrested for violating the anti-mask law. That is the Hong Kong situation. What we are doing now, we are now staying in the UK and have established another church named the Good Neighbour Church England. We have 4-point service in Bristol, London, Manchester and Birmingham. Not only do we want to help the young asylum seekers in need, but we also want to speak up for the groups and places that are still suffering under the oppression of the Chinese Communist Party. We have not forgotten the political prisoners and journalists imprisoned in our hometown or our friends worldwide who are oppressed by authoritarian regimes. The English. Last year, we visited Brooklyn twice for the humanitarian aid, launched a joint petition for the Burma groups and demonstrate against the Chinese Communist parties with Tibetans and the regime in the UK. We hope to continue to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly in the UK and speak out with the voice of the Bible. We do not know what tomorrow holds, but who holds tomorrow. May the oppressed one day see the light that comes from the haven. That's it, my sharing. Thank you.
I'm sure we've got lots of questions, but we'll hold them for just a moment when we listen to Michael Nwesi from the Africa Rainbow Family, is it, or group? Family. It's family, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put group on there. It's Africa Rainbow Family, and so you're welcome to our family, and we'd love to hear what you have to say as well.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Michael Nwesi, and I know my surname is very difficult to pronounce, but in the English translation it actually means the sun is the king. Yeah. I will make reference to a few words in my discussion today, and it has to do with family, LGBT plus identified person, someone from a black ethnic group, and asylum seeker. And I think with the current situation in the UK immigration system, everybody's enlightened or educated with what's happening at this moment. So I was an asylum seeker before I was granted refugee status, and it wasn't easy for me. I know what I have to go through, and it was a very long, tough ride for me, I would say. And what I would say is, in many situations, I think there was an occasion where someone has to stop me, and it was like, how are you able to cope? How do you go through this phase? Like, what do you mean? He said, you black and you identify as gay. What about, it's more like double discrimination. And I said to him, why is it double discrimination? And he said, well, you get discriminated all the time, don't you? And I had to reply to him. I said to him, well, you only get discriminated if you accept it. Just like when anybody comes to me and say, oh, you gay, you party boy. I say, yeah, I'm gay, I'm party boy. I accept it because people tend to feed on your negative reactions when they see that anything they say and it has a very bad impact on you, they keep going. So that's discrimination. So when people try to discriminate you or try to pick on you and they see you're not bothered, they just let you be because they know everything they do does not really affect you. So what I keep telling people, especially service users like me, I keep telling people, hold on to your ground. This is who you are, so be proud of who you are, because I know a lot of people, a lot of us are disparate in the society. It's not easy being who we are. We actually didn't choose this path. This is who we're meant to be. Like people keep saying, oh, we'd rather say, this is who we're born to be. So if this is who you are, you have to hold your head up high and accept it. You have to be proud. You have to carry it out with proud. Don't feel really down. Don't feel depressed. Like most times I keep telling people, what's discrimination? People feel like, oh, this and that. Even as a black person, when most people come to me and they try to say anything negative towards me, I don't take it as being personal because it doesn't affect me. You didn't inflict pain on me. It's only when you actually physically hurt me that I know you did something to me. But when you say something negative to me, I will say to you, well, I don't feel it because I already made up my mind. This is who I am. So what you said does not define who I am. So that being said, I would say in terms of family, the reason why we go with African Rainbow Family is the name actually. African Rainbow Family does not constitute the fact that we only deal with African ethnic group, because a lot of people are actually, they're really confused with that name. We also take people from Asian group, especially minority group. We have a lot of Asian within our community, the whites, Asians, and Africans. So most time people feel like, oh, I can't join this, basically black and Africans. No. We take everyone, but everyone is welcome. So that's more like our unique name that we go with. And the reason why we go with family is because I've come to know with my experience in life that family does not define who is related to you biologically or is part of your relation. It's defined by people who support you through your hard time, through your hardship. They share your pain and your soul, and they provide support and assistance to make sure that you go through this process and you come out successfully. So this is what we do in Africa Rainbow Family. We welcome everyone in. We assist them, especially when it comes to being referred to the GP, getting health advice and treatment, being referred to solicitors, especially if they're going through the asylum immigration applications. But what I would say is that a lot of people get really confused. We don't give immigration advice, we just do the referral, and we support in other social support that you really like in terms of if you're homeless, we put you through, we refer you to the, if you're going through asylum procedures, we refer you to migrant help. They work with home office, then they will give you accommodation. If you're having financial crisis, most time we have sponsors that sponsor these organizations. So we give out financial support to our service users. So we do everything possible to make sure that we give them the appropriate support that they need, because going through the asylum process or stage is very difficult. I went through there without any support. I don't know what I went through, and I told myself I wouldn't want anybody to go through this part that I did, because I was at a point where I almost lost it. And I was very lucky that if I was being referred to African Rainbow Family, they had to put me through, and they supported me through the path. So I would say with the ongoing immigration issue, people shouldn't really feel really depressed. I know it takes a lot. Going through the asylum system, getting a decision takes a lot of time. And being unemployed, when you're just there and you keep reporting at the reporting centers, you don't have any source of finance. It's like you don't have any source of livelihood, like your life is at stake, like at a hold, it's not moving forward. But I keep telling people, the battle is not over until it's over. So you keep fighting until you get to your destination. Never give up. You will get there eventually. I was there and I got to this stage now in life. So if actually I give up, who knows, I will not be in this position now. So I keep encouraging people, keep fighting, and one of these days you will get to your destination, to your goal. You will actually achieve your goal. So with African Rainbow Family, all I can say is our vision is to create a world without prejudice, a world where you are not judged for who you are. You can be who you want to be. And our mission is we're building a supportive community where we call family and accept everyone that wants to come in. Thank you.
Thank you. So just going to open the floor out for questions, but that's two very different. What you know about the current situation in African countries facing LGBTQ communities. I mean, we hear, one of my reasons for thinking it was important to have somebody from your family here is because we know that Christians themselves are responsible for a lot of the difficulties that LGBTQ communities have in Africa. And I wondered whether you could say something about that.
Thank you. I was supposed to say that. I think it escaped me, sorry. Before I came to the UK, I'm from a very religious family, and Africa in general, they have been ruled by religion, to say the least. Well, I would say, when I came to the UK, I had to drop my religion behind because of the experience I had in life. Because a lot of issues in Africa is being driven by religion. Because when the church says, don't do this, everybody does that part. People don't even believe it's like religion is the ruler in Africa. So a pastor can just wake up the next morning and say, oh, this word is not red, it's blue. Everybody will assume it's blue. So everybody go with what is being said in the religious aspect. And in Africa, being gay, it seems like a sin. They feel like, oh, you're going to hell, you're born in hell, God is against gay, you're going to die, or you're going to contract the gay disease and it's going to kill you. And this is one thing that really fascinates me, that I'm really proud of, or I would actually say, that before there were drugs that has to treat HIV and everything, people were standing on the ground that, oh, it's a gay disease, it's more like a punishment from God. But now, I can easily stand my gun and kick. I can actually fight and argue on that. Well, the drug is being bought by science. What do you have to say about that? And people are living their true life. People are living their full potential in life using the drugs. Currently, it's even straight men that are contracting the disease. So it's not linked to gay men anymore. So what do you have to say about that? So in general, I would say, to me, I don't have any religion, because in Africa, religion is the big issues we are facing. It's the reason why Africa has never grown for many years, and it will still be there until Africans are ready to actually push religion aside and actually face the actual problem they're having.
Really interesting. I went into a CD shop in Accra, in Ghana, and I said, do you have any gospel music? And the man just went, and the entire shop was full of gospel music. Okay, any thoughts, anything that people would like to? The acoustics not very good, Jesus.
I'm from Taiwan, and that is good. Yeah. I have a friend who was recently invited by Hong Kong University. They are going to give him an honored doctorate. And then he hesitated a lot because he didn't want to empower the regime, the Chinese regime. And he thought maybe if he went there, it's kind of support or connect with Chinese regime. And he supported a lot. He supports a lot this Hong Kong's democracy, or the voice rights, human rights. So that's why he didn't want to take this honored doctorate award. But finally he decided to go because he wanted to observe more closely that in Hong Kong. He wanted to know more about the current situation. I don't know what's your opinion. Yeah, if it's because if we look from afar, it's really difficult to see what's happening now.
I'm sorry, my English is not good. I hope to really understand what you're asking. Your friend now going to Hong Kong U, right? To have a doctoral on, okay. Yeah. Just like what I told before is that the situation in Hong Kong, the social situation, were ruled by the national security law, especially in the university. Hong Kong U is the most important university in Hong Kong. All of the teachers, the headmaster, the big people in the Hong Kong U, we will say they most likely they are red. Why we say they're red? They love Beijing, because they can't say anything anti-government. They say something anti-government, they will cut the budget, the education budget, the department budget, and so on. for observation, if your friend go to university to have the observation about what's happening in Hong Kong, I think he or maybe she can feel about nowadays in Hong Kong, maybe nobody will say something very sensational in university. They will say something seems like so academically, or maybe something livelihood, how to do the homework, how to read the book. I don't think he can listen on finding somebody, some wording who anti-government, some book is anti-government. In the library in Hong Kong, not only university, the public library, some books which is very sensational, they will take it away for around just past 1 to 2 years, take all the book away who anti-government. So if you now go to the Hong Kong, very peaceful, nothing happened. Just like what I told before, just the last 8th of March, nobody did the march. It's very peaceful. But we totally understand that they just put they feel very afraid and say nothing on the Facebook, on the Twitter, and Instagram. So I guess your friend, just what he can see is, or she can see is peaceful and silent. That is, it's very ridiculous because before 1997, ruled by the British government in Hong Kong, they have much of speech freedom, but now it's a very darkness time. Everybody in Hong Kong, just like I don't know you both of you, and I remember that accident in 1989, the 4th of June in Beijing, a huge amount of university students killed by the Beijing's army in 1989. After all, the Chinese in the Beijing, the university also become silent. But nowadays, the university student in Beijing or maybe in China, they will pro-Beijing government because we have a metaphor. They said when they are young, they wash brain by the CCP. Sure. Now I know that some of the secondary students, just 14 years old, 15 years old, when they study in Hong Kong, but their language is Mandarin. Hong Kong people speak in Cantonese, amount of difference. Just the relations. That's like what I go to last year. I go to Ukraine. The differences between Ukraine and Russia. The Ukraine people hate to speak in Russian, but they know what's happening. The Mandarin and Cantonese, the Russian and the Cantonese, they're the same. So we know that they typing the Chinese in the computer. The secondary student, they are typing pinyin, the Mandarin entry methodology, not the Cantonese or maybe the Taiwan entry in the typing. That means they're wash brain, changing the atmosphere in the studio, also including in university situation. And last year and last month, 3 to 4 university students were put in jail because when they are doing the graduation ceremony last year in Chinese University of Hong Kong, they protested, give me the freedom. And somebody shouted, they are arrested by the National Security Law. Just last month, they put in the jail, just graduated from the university. So you may understand why the university students become silent and also the teachers become silent. So I think he can or maybe she can observe some kind of situation. But what I told before is that Hong Kong have a very great, big report hotline for the national security law, just like 1555 or 50 years before in the mainland China. We just send the WeChat, TikTok, and the hotline to call somebody neighborhood who violates the national security law. Very horrible.
What's the changes for church? Changes.
The changes of the church is that they will become. In fact, a lot of some of the press ask me some question like this. It's very paradoxical because most of the church in Hong Kong, they are middle class. Before 2019, they already become silent because some of the church members of them, they are working in the government. They are the chief executive. They have money to pay for the church. They have lots of cooperation, just like education, the funding for school, the funding for the social service provided by the government. So they, before 2019, they keep silent. After 2019, more keep silent. They always use the reason is that religions and political, they need to separate. Don't put it together. So that is very horrible. They think that God just maintain your personal spiritual life. Don't talk about the social issue and something like that. I know that some of the pastors, they are they support the human rights work, the freedom work. They just like the mainland China, do the church underground. Just like my church in Hong Kong now, they separate, there's variety in different districts. Our church in Hong Kong have about 200 people. After our church stop the running, there's variety underground, put it online, just like the underground church in the mainland China. I know that some of the church running like this.
Hi. Oh, okay, it's working. First of all, I would like to thank you for coming. It's really, really interesting what you're saying, and I just very much admire you for what you've been through. Because, well, I've never been a refugee, but I've met many, and I think it's such a hard situation. And what people who are trying to make a life in another country, what they are going through, and they have to, for whatever reason, run away from their own country, is really, really, really hard. So, you know, all the best for you and your friends and families. Yeah, I don't know if I have a question. It just made me think about lots of things, both of your talks, because I'm from Poland, and it just reminded me that the stories you were saying about a lot of things that are happening not only in Hong Kong, not only in China, not only in Africa, but I have a feeling that there is a lot of scary things going everywhere. So like situation like in Hong Kong, I've been like throughout my life, like I'm in early 40s, and like Hong Kong has changed a lot since throughout these 40 years, and not necessarily for the best, but it's the same as, you know, when you kind of read about what was happening in Afghanistan in 1960s, 70s, how it looked like and how it looks now. You can see that there is a lot of things happening around the world when things, if you kind of drop the ball, things are happening, are turning into the worse, into more authoritarian, more scary. And even in Britain, it's kind of, you know, it's completely, you know, it's uncomparable, but still, I don't necessarily very much like where it's going at the moment. And it is, and in my own country, we have a horrible government. And yeah, that's scary as well. And in America, the same thing. I mean, it got better, but it's still like we just think that as people with like high social values and social responsibility, we just have to constantly, we just can't rest. We just have to keep an eye on what's happening and keep fighting for the good things happening, because whenever we just turn around, it just seems to be, which my feeling is like that, it just seems everywhere just there are little fires everywhere, like bigger or smaller. But I also was thinking what you were saying about religion in Africa. That was another thing that made me think about my own country, because this is what's happening in, like in Poland. Actually, it was when Poland stopped being a communist country in 1989. The church played the role of like kind of freedom fighter. But now, you know, it's been 30 years and it's an oppressor. It's basically in a very similar, I'm talking about Catholic Church, because that's what is the main church in Poland. And yeah, it's basically when you were talking about LGBT people in Africa, yeah, it's basically exactly the same what's happening in Poland. And I just think it just can change in waves in such a short period of time that it's just, I don't know, I just don't have a question. I just think it's like scary what's happening. And I just think what can we do as people who are kind of more aware of that and try to do our best? What can we do to keep our governments accountable, to make sure that our society, because many of the countries where these things are happening are actually democratic countries. So we can say that bad things, that, you know, something happened in Britain or in Poland or in that country, in other country, just because even in Russia, like, you know, many people would like to think that that Putin is winning elections because elections in Russia are rigged. But every Russian person I know, they say, well, maybe they are rigged, but it doesn't matter. Most of Russians anyway vote for Putin. He doesn't have to rig elections. People just vote for him because they are so brainwashed. And so, yeah, so what, as people who are trying to be socially responsible and kind of being in support of freedom, what can we do to inspire the societies in our countries to actually choose good people to govern us, basically? So yeah, if you have any thoughts on that.
Thank you. I would say, based on that, permit me to say this. I would say the world is developing, and part of the reason why Africans really think about that mentally is because they are not really civilized. But recently, a lot of Africans are going to European countries, and they're seeing what's like actually seeing the true life. So this set of human beings, or this people, this group of people, when they go back home, they tend to actually spread it like, oh, we've been in Europe, we see people of decent sex. It's nothing. They didn't die, they're happily living their lives. And I would say another issue, like you said, it has to do with politics. Like recently, in my country, Nigeria, they're going through these electoral situations. Bad governance has always taken its toll, and it seems like it's no ending situation. Like they just want to be on that position, and they just want to ridicule the country, like tarnish the image of the country, and make the poor become more poor. So make the poor become more poor, and make the rich become more richer. So it's what's actually going on in the world. But I would say it's going to come to an end, but it's going to take a while. But because now a lot of people, I would say in reference to many years before now, a lot of people have come to the realization that, oh, we're actually not really enlightened and civilized. And actually we are now, and they are accepting the fact that everybody just have to be who they are. And you just have to love who you want to love. That's it.
Thank you.
May I add some additional information or additional comment? But I'm sorry, my English is very bad. You are better than me. I'm not. Have you read a news? The retired soccer player named Nika. Do you know who is? Yeah. You know what's happening last week? I think this is a very great example for what you're talking about. It's very short for me that BBC put down his show because he have a disagree about what government want to do. have a new policy for the refugee. If when they are coming to the UK illegally, they will take them back to their hometown, something like that. Then Lineker said, "Oh, you are doing just like the Nazi." Then BBC put down him. But then another retired soccerman, the player, they come out to fight for Lineker. They stopped. I won't go to BBC sports program anymore. A lot of them because I'm soccer fans. Okay, but that is a very meaningful and powerful, you know. And others support Lineker. Don't afraid about. They're not afraid about. Oh, is the government will do something wrong, or maybe it will. When they do something, they anti the government, disagree with the government, they will limit their budget or maybe cut down their life living, something like that. I'm sorry, my English is very horrible. Jesus said, the people who are living not only for the bread, for God's word. God's word, not only the Bible. I think comes from your heart, chasing the justice, freedom, human rights, something like that. When somebody just like Lineker say, "You're just like a Nazi. Why your policy like this?" In fact, coming from I don't know, Michael, you do agree or not? Because we always work with the refugee. They come from Hong Kong to the UK. They are young. They are very grassroots. They are low education. They can't speak in English very loudly. In fact, we study for, you may know that we work with some refugee in the UK. They have some money. So I don't know, do you know that the UK government, the refugee policy, they will support them some money for their living. We calculate for them around £5 per day, or maybe £7 per day. They are living in London. But today we have a great strike, and tomorrow, I read the story today from a lot of newspapers. I totally agree with what Lineker said, and also not only that, they can live it. The refugee in the UK, they can live it. But this is what I'm saying is their identity, their heart, they're living very hardly. It condemn or maybe destroy their spirit. That's true. How does they think about themselves? I'm a grassroots one, I'm a poor one. I can't go anyway because I just get £5 per day. When you walking in London, I know that amount of refugee, Hong Kong refugee, the young people, they want to save the money. We walk around to go to gathering, to find somebody, walk around 1 hour, 2 hours, London West to the London East, or maybe they want to save the money. They're living in the refugee dormitory or maybe the hotel. They can't cook themselves, but the food is very horrible. It's very horrible. Some India food, the Indian refugee don't get it. Very horrible. What kind of refugee policy? Somebody saying about the refugee policy has a problem. I disqualify. The Prime Minister said, I don't know why the people working in the BBC taking the money from the government, they say anti-government. What are you talking about? This is the democratic nation, country. They have a speech freedom. We totally understand because we come from Hong Kong. Somebody anti-government, I arrest you on the next day. Now I cut your offer, cut your job. What? I feel very shocked about it. What I wanted to say is that just like what the tradition church teaching, what Bible teaching is that we may say that, we may think about communism is bad, and democratic rule is good, democracy is good. But I always think about, just like Bible teaching, is the people heart didn't got any changes in all the systematical changes, nothing. So what you're talking about, I want you to know that a lot of Hong Kong people, they come to the UK just asking what you're talking about, what we can do. They feel very hopeless, powerless, do nothing. We always do the sharing after the worship service, some fellowship, a lot of them talking about what you're talking about. What I learned from Ninica, this accident, this issue, we keep on fighting, keep on voicing, keep on putting all the things on the social media. The people who got the power in the government, they are afraid about the people. Why he cut Ninica's job? Because he is afraid. The Prime Minister is afraid. He noticed, I just discussed with one of the students in the Birmingham University. We think that the controversial party, they are afraid about it. They lost their power. They must notice that today and tomorrow the strike is mainly aimed at you need to improve the situation in the UK. So that's why I think we don't give up to sharing, voicing all the people, all the power, all the government power. They need to investigate by the people. Give them the suggestion. Keep on fighting. Sorry.
No, Pastor,
Long hair.
I want to ask you something. I mean, the people in the churches who are quietly accepting the communist regime are reading the same Bible that you're reading. What takes you to the point where you read the Bible to be about human rights, justice, mercy? What brought you to that reading?
Oh, I'm sorry, my English is not good. Maybe I can get your message, but I can get because wow. My background, when I finished my university study, in fact, I'm in Hong Kong, I'm a professional social worker in a great, most famous university in Hong Kong. But then, I'm working in some NGOs, the charity organization. I observed that they have a systematic evil. You may do a lot of counseling, the mercy thing, the people who hungry, you give them a food. But why they feel very hungry? They suffer, they are homeless. Why? They have a systematic evil. I go to philological school to study. Some teachers always teach us, don't read the Bible just like you, the relationship, just about the relationship between you and God, also with the society. In the Old Testament, amount of prophets are telling the problem of the society. The government people always grab the money from the people. The prophets shout out, you need to stop. So thanks for the teaching in the philological school, and they send me some books. For example, the political theology, liberation theology, a lot of sample about, for example, the liberation of the black people in the slaves in the UK, the history. John Newton, William Wilberforce, they give us a lot of book to read it. But you know, in Hong Kong, in the tradition church or middle class church, it won't teach you, stop you. Because you need to separate the political and the religion. Political is secular, not holy enough, I don't know how to say. Not the holy things, it's dirty things. But because my experience, I work with some grassroots when I being a social worker. It's the evil things. The policy will just benefit to the middle class, not for the grassroots. And for the somehow the tradition past the wording is the fighting of the light and the darkness. It's true. I can sensation. They just protect their money for the middle class people. Just like the sample in the prophet Micah, a lot of prophet they are saying about this. They have experience in Old Testament, and nowadays it's still the problem is still there. So that's why the role of church need to be the salt and the light in the society. We always think that somebody hungry, I give them the food. It's good, do the mercy, but not only that. When we always say help somebody who in need, you need to work with their systematical evil, to fighting for them. You know Jesus, he go into the worship center to push out, to get a rush, let the people. You don't let the church become some place for earning the money. No. Yeah, a lot of center.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, permit me to say this. I just want to say, before you actually decide or give a decision on something, you have to think, especially with these, when it comes to refugees crossing the English Channel, like they keep saying, in small boats. Let me give an example for what I'm about to say. If you bring a man forward or a lady forward, and a successful lady, a successful man, he has everything he wants in the world, and you give him a gun and you tell him to kill yourself, he or she wouldn't do that. But it takes a lot for someone to actually leave their home in search of a safe haven, because you don't want to imagine what they go through. Put yourself, like, be outside in the cold for just a few hours, you wouldn't stand it. And they go through, they pass through the sea, they spend days, months there. A lot of them don't make it, but they are willing to risk their life to go through this pathway, because they're being faced with something that's worse than death. And they already made a deal with God or with themselves that if I survive, if I succeed, good. If I don't, fine. So when the government, when they make decisions based on their stupid small boat, they should consider the fact that these people actually risk their life to come this way, to be in this position. And what of those that didn't survive? What happened to them? So they should consider that before they make this decision.
Absolutely. Thank you. Maybe just a last one before we have some more music.
Thank you. I've got a question for you, Michael, if you could, about your organisation, the Rainbow Family. How does it actually work? Do you have weekly meetings, and are you just in London or all over the place? Just a little bit to help me picture how it works.
Okay, thank you for that question. Africa Rainbow Family has 5 branches in the UK. They have a branch in London. We have the main branch, the main office in Manchester. We have another branch in Cardiff. We have in Leeds. And sorry, I got confused. Cardiff, Leeds, London, Birmingham, and Manchester. So in terms of meetings, like you said, what we do is we do have on each service in every branch to have once a month a group meeting in each service, and most times we do have the meeting has to be face to face. We come together, especially for new service users. You get to be introduced, you meet other members in the family, where you interact, make contact, become friends, we share ideas, and we also have online meetings where we all gather together. It's online, so everyone for every branch comes together to share the idea. We talk through Zoom. We meet people online, and we actually do meet face to face. Like when we do have like a main gathering, we go to Manchester, which is our main office. We have like most likely make reservations or make plans towards this. Everyone comes together, we meet in persons, or when we have pride events like pride marches or invitations, everyone is being welcome to attend, where there we get to meet other people from other branches.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, just check that nobody's kind of absolutely burning and bursting and to be furious at the end of the chance to ask the question. Yeah, you do. Okay.
This is a sort of half-formed question, and it's aimed partly at Pastor Roy, but if you have comments and want to come back at it, please do. Thinking about Hong Kong and the church and the Beijing government, and by extension the Hong Kong government, which is now going along with Beijing, clearly there's something they don't like about the Christian church. So I suppose my question is, what exactly is it that Beijing is afraid of? Why is it that they want to repress the church? And the flip side of it is, what are people so afraid of about LGBT?
Is there anybody else want to make a last question before we close?
You mean that why the Beijing government oppress the church or Christian in nowadays? Is it?
What is it? The government clearly are unhappy about the church, the Beijing government, and therefore the new current Hong Kong government. What is it exactly that they're worried about?
Oh, because Chinese Communist Party, when they are in 1949 something years before that, 1920, 30, something like that, when they built the Communist Party, they come from the power of people, a big power, because they are the neighbor, they are the farmers. They notice that when the people have a great gathering, they have power to edit the government. I think that by their history, they notice that the Christianity groups have a great communion, fellowship, gathering. I think they are afraid about it. Not only Hong Kong. In fact, before, just the last 10 years or 20 years, in the mainland China, the church were occupied by the government. The pastor of the Chinese church were authorized by the government. One pastor named Wang Yi, he always speak. He just several years before he had a church in Chengdu, in the west south part in the mainland China. He always fight for the justice for the June 4th accident, 1989. Then arrested by the government, need to put in the jail for 10 years. They are afraid to face about the accident, June 4th accident, shutting down all of the people anti-government, especially the church. So I think I observed they are afraid about the power of people, and they notice that the Bible teaching is teaching somebody to fight for the justice and freedom. And maybe some factor is some very traditional issues, just like they are afraid about the Christianity, the Catholic, is the power of the West. They're going into separate, let the Chinese government less power. They come from the Western, the Americans, Britain, something like that. So that means all the church who authorized by the Chinese government nowadays in the mainland China, before they reading the Bible, they need to read the teaching of Xi Jinping. Now they should, before they reading the Bible, when they starting the worship, some of them reading they need to speak out what Xi Jinping teaching. Just like a month of year before Mao Zedong, what he is doing. They copy. So I think they are fair.
Thank you. Based on your question, you asked what are people afraid of? Why are people afraid of LGBT members, right?
If it's fair that they are.
Okay. I would say when in many situations that I've experienced, when you ask Africans, especially those from Nigeria, why do you hate LGBT? IQ plus identified group of people. They are always on the defense that, oh, it's against the Bible, it's against our traditional custom. And I keep telling them, do you even know your traditional custom? Before colonization, there's nothing like Christianity, there's nothing like religion. What do you know about your traditional custom? So you should go back and actually read about your traditional custom. So this is what I tell them. I think what they're afraid of is the fact that they believe on the fact that, oh, if two beautiful people of same sex are in a relationship, then that will reduce the rate of production. Who is going to give birth? How they're going to formulate? How they're going to get pregnant and stuff like that. So that's what they're actually holding on to. And they don't want to accept the fact that there's what we call surrogacy. They don't want to see that. They see that as artificial means of production. That is against the Bible. So I think what they're afraid of is they're afraid of the fact that the world and in the future time to come will be limited with the number of people in the world due to the reduced rate of production.
Thank you. I think both our speakers have been incredibly modest because we've been listening to two very brave people. And I know that, Pastor Roy, you haven't told the whole story about what you've been doing and what you were doing in Hong Kong and the bravery of standing between the police and the protesters and the willingness to put yourself on the line personally and physically is just incredibly impressive and inspirational to us. And Michael, too, just being here, you know, where you are, sitting where you are, having gone through what you've gone through and been through is also really inspirational to us and incredibly impressive. And you're both very, very brave people. And you have, I think I can speak for everybody, you have our admiration tonight. So thank you both very much for being with us and just being part of our family. And hope that you remain part of our family, or feel you are. So thank you. Shall we? And Kirinpal, I think we like to finish these evenings with some music just so we can relax and take on board what we've heard and assimilate into our minds what's been happening. Thanks.
Okay, this track is from my album 100 Strings, Indian Ragas Full Circle, Volume 1. It's called Anticipation, Raga Bhageshwari. It's a beautiful raga. And you get to play ragas and taras, melodies with rhythm. And when we play the concept of the Padape, nothing is rehearsed, we concentrate in the cross rhythms. Spontaneous play. The instrument that is Santoor from Kashmir Valley, and it strings traditionally. And the power of the raga that we play is so much, very strong. We are the medium, the musician is the medium, yet we can influence the elements. We can produce again, it's possible. Metaphysical realm is possible. And we take this music in love, peace and harmony, so that we can all live together in one roof and feel the power of music. Thank you so much. I'm known as Kirinpal Singh. You can iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, my music is there. Kashmir Valley. But I'll tell you a little secret. This is where it is made in England. Jensen 24 Cordial and one. It was made from especially for that. We use a maple wood from Canada. Pink sauce. This is called coffee. It's beautiful. And it is I'll tell you very briefly how it happened. Before COVID, my sound engineer, I did work for the winter secondary school, I also produced the numbers. I recorded it. And then I just got talking to him. His name is Arthur Navarro. And I said, maybe you do pop album, I'll play something with you, and maybe you can use the African tone. Rather than a tabla player. And I forgot all about it. And just close my film president. He said, we got a grant from the Brazilian government to do this album. And then let it come to Brazil. So I said, okay, I'll pack my bag and send it to you. Spend 1 month with me. And then in March 2020, COVID, and 500,000 people died in Brazil. Then I said, there's no way I'm going to go to Brazil now. So what happened? I composed half the music he composed after the event. Then my musical video was we did Zoom calls, meetings. Then I went into everybody. So this is part 1 and part 2. Fusion ancestral, it's ancestral fusions.
And I guess we should close now, as people will have a journey to get home on, well, whatever transport you can possibly find is working. Hopefully there will be some. But thank you, Kirinpal. It's very, very beautiful music. Very much appreciated. And thank you again to our two speakers. Next week we're having another of these evenings, but it'll be very different. We're going to have a more interactive workshop when we try and assimilate some of the ideas that have come out over the past few weeks and ask ourselves, what do they mean for us as a church, and how we take them forward. It promises to be fun, and there'll be no pressure on anybody to do anything they don't want to do. So please come along and encourage other people to come. And then the week after, we have an extraordinary evening here. For the second time, we're going to repeat something we did last year, which is to show a film called Hing. And it's a documentary film, which is rarely seen, and it's a very powerful film on the life of the civil rights movement and Dr. Martin Luther King. And that would be a great evening in the bar. It'll start a bit earlier because it's quite a long film. Start at 6:30. And then, what else can I say?
You should probably mention it's a documentary.
It's a documentary, yes.
And it's 3 hours.
And it's every moment will keep you gripped. It's just an extraordinary film. And we showed it last year, and we're showing it again because it's so important and so powerful. And then on Good Friday, on Palm Sunday in the afternoon at 4 o'clock, there will be a performance of Handel's Messiah and beautiful music. And on Good Friday, there'll be music and poetry in the evening at 7:30. It's called Fire, and it's our Good Friday presentation with poetry, music, and from Union Chapel Voices, which you probably have heard, but also from 3 gospel singers, and Ina Husweva, who is a Ukrainian singer, who will also be singing this Sunday in our church. So lots happening, and look forward to seeing you all again. But thank you all, everybody, for coming and braving the weather and the strike and being here. And thank you all once again. Good night.